So first, let me start off by saying this is an academic talk. So if I offend you at all, good. That means your ideas are being challenged, and that means we are learning. So this election cycle has created a very large divide between our two nations, or the two political parties of our nation. This divide has began to bother me since the day I learned about politics. My proposal for the fall semester was an idea to create a devotional and research the different opinions with Christian views such as gay marriage, drugs, violence, alcohol, marijuana included in drugs, and government. I researched these topics by looking at radical sides of both parts, such as the Equality Federation, the gay rights activist blogs, Stop the Drug War and the Drug-Free World, Quaker Cloud, Anti-War blog, and countless other political blogs. One of my favorite TV shows, Parks and Rec, is a great example of the tying between the two parties and working together. So one of the main characters is Leslie Knope, and she's a kind, very energetic, highly intelligent Democrat, and Ron Swanson, on the other hand, is a quiet, antisocial, anti-government man's man. So this relationship in modern-day politics shouldn't exist. It's very weird, and you don't know too many people on different sides of such a radical party that they'd be friends at all. But we witness on the news and in social media that liberals, conservatives, creationists, evolutionists, soldiers, hippies, Christians, in Parks and Rec, we see through the friendship of Ron and Leslie that there is a way to put aside our beliefs and put away our differences and come together in a positive, mutually beneficial way. We see that our beliefs, when never challenged, are never really seen as wrong. Because of the fact that my proposal was very introverted and my experience didn't actually include other people because I was researching it and sticking with me and being on my computer most of the time. And for years I was very sound in my beliefs. I was raised by my mother over there and was raised conservative, as most of us probably in here were. But last year, I heard something that Mary Shelley said, which was, "I am not one for opinions because I feel the other side too strongly." And this quote has changed my thoughts on politics and on opinions and made them more empathetic to a degree. And I found that there are good arguments for each side, and this led to the conclusion that so many thoughts and beliefs are relative and based on thousands of small cultural quirks. It was odd researching topics that I had already agreed with. I had to learn how to objectively look at evidence, and the first example when I read up on the morality of drugs and whether or not you agree alcohol is a drug. And the morality of alcohol is debated among Christians quite well. There are teetotalers, which are people who do not even touch it, and then there are people who believe that Jesus drank, so i.e. it's not wrong. And the circumstances I grew up in, I had a very large family, and most of them were well endowed in the alcohol drinking. So, that was that. I had always kind of seen alcohol in a semi-positive light. It never was wrong to me. I never really grew up seeing it wrong. But the more I researched it, the darker that light kind of got. With more than 88,000 deaths from just alcohol a year, it had affected me, and I didn't realize I was that wrong. And you hear these stories about thousands of people. We heard them yesterday about people dying from alcohol use, having their lives ruined from it. And I don't think that alcohol is entirely wrong, but moderation is key. And one of the Bible verses that kind of found really motivated me in this and now is the verse that's take the plank out of your eye before you try to fix the splinter or I don't remember the actual verse. I forgot my Bible, so I can't have it. But it's a verse along that line, and I believe it's in John. And this next part of my verse is probably going to, or of my speech is going to be very controversial, I think. And the reason it is because throughout my research, I kind of found out that cannabis or marijuana is not wrong in the Christian faith. A lot of people say that there's the verse that kind of motivates a lot of that is, do not be like stupid with drunkenness, do not give in to drunkenness, or do not be out of your own mind. And while these are all true, at the same time you are drinking caffeine and you're drinking sugar, you're drinking all sorts of different, alcohol is a big one, that these are all drugs that change how your mind works. And I don't believe that if you think those are right, then it is wrong to say that that one is wrong. And a lot of people say that it's an escape from reality and that there are a lot of problems with that. But at the same time, when you go to a movie or when you sit down and watch Netflix, it's the same concept. You're escaping your reality. You're not trying to live in the moment, or you're not trying to be in reality to a degree. No. Sorry. Sorry. And another thing that I researched that I didn't quite agree with was gay marriage. I'd always grown up conservative. I believed in the Bible, and there are a lot of reasons of why it should be wrong or why it is wrong throughout the Bible. But one of the things I noticed was that there wasn't a lot of things that were morally wrong throughout the Bible besides a few verses. And while I may not agree with it at this point, I agree that it is wrong right now, but I do not believe that we are entitled to stop it. War was another thing I researched, and the violence with it. And in 1 Samuel 8, it explains how Israel's desire for a king, and how it talks about how people are oppressed, controlled, and killed by this king. And it talks about how with the creation of kings, wars will be waged, sons will be taken and sent to their deaths, wheat will be harvested and used for the royal meals. This is not a well-known chapter, or really a lot of these verses aren't too well-known, but it shows a lot of truth about how war and leaders will use war and violence to not for their benefit and not really for the benefit of the people. And I honestly, through my research, I never really came to a full conclusion. It's hard to say when war is right and when war is wrong because of how prevalent it is through the Bible and how it shows that even though there are circumstances that say never hurt each other, but when you look at Syria and a lot of other countries right now, it's hard to say that you have to stay out of it when there's so much destruction and so many lives being lost by each of those. When I began searching marketing, which was the second half of my proposal, I started this podcast, and this podcast was kind of it was about marketing and kind of how it should be with Christians. And the first example they stuck with was cigarettes. Now, cigarettes are pretty popular for being the subject that was lied about the most, that was covered up, and how cigarettes were branded as this just like something enjoyable, something that can't really hurt you, something that even though they were finding studies, they were showing that other sides of it was wrong, that there were actually true problems with it. It shows how, like, in marketing, how a lot of people can kind of steer away from Christianity because of how much it's not lying, it's just not telling all the truth. And I do believe that that's wrong. One way that they do this is with coupons and deals, and a lot of people get excited about deals. I do as well. I love my buy one, get one frees. But you see that in the marketing world, this is kind of a way for them to make money off ways that you don't really suspect. They manipulate you in certain ways and try to change how your day will go because of how the deal pops up. Like a lot of things, like buy one get ones is the example. If you saw that coupon and you weren't going to go to Panda Express that day, but you got this coupon, it motivates you to go. And while I don't believe this is wrong, it shows that there's manipulation and there's always a sense of control going throughout these throughout your thoughts and throughout business. There have been several verses that have guided me throughout my experience, one being, do nothing from rivalry or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interest of others. This verse kind of fueled my thought process as I went through my fall proposal, and especially with the election process and how the actions from rivalry fueled a lot of the media and the choices people made. A lot of people thought that, oh, just because I'm a Republican, I should vote against the Democrats, or just because I'm a Democrat, I should vote against the Republicans. And this verse kind of shows that it's not always about rivalry. It's about how we need to really look at like true hard facts and make our decisions based on that, not out of a rivalry of some degree. We can look to a lot of, one of the main ones was Russia and how Trotsky and Stalin both rose. And Stalin created, when he was competing with Trotsky, he would always destroy the plans of Trotsky. Like a lot of them were how they needed to build these new factories, but Stalin said, oh, we don't need to build the new factories. And then he kept rivaling Stalin or Trotsky until he gained the full power and was able to kick Trotsky out of Russia. And he then used those ideas for his own gain. And that always kind of sat with me wrong, was that this rivalry between them kind of caused a lot of problems for Russia and a lot of things that never could have really worked, but they ended up working once they were put into place. For my spring proposal, I kind of focused on two specific verses, and one was, you should not give false testimony against your neighbor, Exodus 20:16, and do to others as they would have, as you would have them do to you, Luke 6:13. These verses are pretty simple, as do not lie. However, it's hard to not lie. It's very hard to not lie. We do it throughout our day. We say white lies to get out of situations. We think that there are a lot of places which you can lie to get ahead, and I think that's very prevalent in business nowadays, and that's where Christianity is lacking to a degree, is that we see that in our personal lives, lying kind of weaves its way into how our social structure works, and we take that into business, and then that then creates an absence of Christianity throughout business. And, well, we begin to lie to customers. They use the plastic meat that goes on your sandwich and your bun to make it look very appetizing and very real, but at the same time, those aren't what they're serving you. It's a lie. It's not true. Now, this may seem like a weird part of my speech is to talk about my service component, and I was very conflicted when I began because I didn't really know what my service project should look like, and I really didn't think about it too much until it was kind of when I first got a job that I started giving to the homeless every time I could. And now, I wouldn't give money. I'd give food. I'd give water or anything I had that I could. And it came to me at this point that I needed to do something I didn't agree with, something that would have challenged me to be a different person. And so instead of giving them food or water, I decided to start giving them money. And that was kind of me building this trust with myself, that I needed to trust people in the world, that if I gave them money, they wouldn't waste it. They would work towards getting something better. And I would give any time I saw a homeless person. I saw it a lot on Wadsworth and 285. There's always one man there. And every time I'd go, I'd say, use this for something you really need, or use this for something you really need. And then I found several Bible verses that, like Jeremiah 29:11 and a lot like that, that are, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans not to harm you, but to give you a hope and a future. And that really kind of started changing the way I looked at money and the way I kind of started thinking about how money can be such a corruption, and how in marketing that's kind of all it's about, is how to get more money, how to get more and more money. It's but when I looked at it, I saw that we can look to get more money, but we also have to look at the generosity side and how to give away to fellow people. So I started at the beginning of this year giving anytime I saw a homeless person money. And so far, I haven't seen a lot of the same people there. I've seen new homeless people. Probably every 2 weeks there's someone new. And I felt like I did a good job with that. And I don't often talk about service. I don't think you should. It says in the Bible not to. But, yeah. So, yeah. Any questions? Cool. I'll pray, and then